Okay, so the chapter opens up not too long after the ending of the last one, and we see that the Clover Kingdom, or at the very least the capital, is already in a frenzy, because we start the chapter off with these two nobles, and I think these actually might be the same two nobles we saw a few chapters ago when Lucius and Asta were fighting, that Lucius used to distract Asta, and we see them talking about the fact that the Wizard King is now their enemy, which, yeah, I guess the nobles and the common folk wouldn't really understand the idea or the nuance that Lucius and Julius were two separate people. All they saw was that someone that looked just like the Wizard King was attacking them. So now, of course, they would actually be very upset and scared over the idea that he might be their enemy. Because as far as they're aware, Julius with his time magic is the most powerful wizard to ever live. And someone that even if all the captains were to team up against, probably wouldn't hope to stand a chance of defeating him. And you know, now that I'm thinking about it, I wouldn't be surprised with the panic that they're having in this chapter that later on in the saga, we might see the king and possibly some of the other nobles jump ship and try to join Lucius willingly in order to just kind of survive. Then we cut over to the captains having a meeting and we see Yuno barging in, and Yuno just has this look of like complete disbelief, dread, and pure anger on his face right now. And I love the fact that Tabata is drawing him that way because that is exactly how I wanted to see him look post the time skip for the first time after what happened in the last chapter. He should be this upset and in disbelief and dreadful because not only did he end up losing the person he considers a brother, but the someone who he actually considers to be like a motherly figure, also kind of an older sister, is the one who's technically responsible for killing him. And on top of that, if you add in the fact that Lucius, aka Julius, the person he kind of looked up to as a mentor slash goal, is the one responsible for everything that actually happened to the two of them. So yeah, Yuno should be very upset right now. And the only person who seems to be more upset than him in this chapter is Yami, because the first time we get to see Yami in this chapter, he just has this stone cold face of just pure seething rage, like he's ready to kill everyone and everything that moves in front of him. Like, I mean, it's revealed a few pages later, but we end up finding out that in between the ending of the last chapter and the beginning of this chapter, Yami has smoked like 2 dozen or so cigarettes. And then on the other side of all this, we have Noelle, Mimosa, and Nero, who just look like they fell into like a bottomless pit of depression this entire chapter. Which, speaking of the three of them, they're actually giving a report right now, or at the very least Nero is, because even though she's also just as upset as the two of them are over what happened to Asta, she's the only one who's actually able to keep things together long enough to actually give the captains the information they need to know. Because again, when it comes to Noelle and Mimosa, the two of them pretty much aren't even there right now. Like, physically, they're obviously there, but mentally, they're completely checked out. And the only time we actually get to see the two of them actually react to anything in the chapter is when someone brings up the idea or someone brings up Asta's name. And the only time someone brings up Asta's name in this chapter is when they're saying that he's most likely dead. And the first person too is actually Real, who makes a kind of slight joke about the entire thing, which he gets called out for doing that by Charlotte, because obviously this is a situation, it's no time for jokes. But we can see that the reason why Real did that is because he's panicking right now. Like, he is the youngest and most emotionally immature one out of all the captains, and it's really showing in this chapter because just like how we saw in the beginning of the chapter, the nobles were panicking over the idea of having to fight against Julius, we see Real having the same kind of reaction like during the meeting. Now, this is when we end up finding out that Nock was there at the meeting as well, and I was very disappointed when Nock showed up in this chapter, only because the leaks actually got me extremely hyped over the idea that he actually might be getting a redesign post the time skip. And while he did get a slight redesign, the only thing that really changed for him was that his cloak now has the Black Bulls logo on it. So while it's cool to see him actually embracing the fact that he actually is a member of the Black Bulls and seemingly being an actual part of them, it's a little disappointing that he doesn't actually have a complete, like, brand new look to him. Like, I was hoping for like a new hairstyle, a brand new kind of style in general when it comes to his clothes, but no, just, you know, his cloak has a logo on it. Anyway, this is when we find out that Nock was actually using his shadow magic to try to find Asta's shadow, but he says he can't find it anywhere. And he gives 3 possible reasons why he wouldn't be able to find it. The first one is that Asta is probably just too far away, which, keep in mind, Nock was able to go from the Spade Kingdom to the Clover Kingdom and back pretty easily in the last arc. So that would mean that he could probably find Asta if he was anywhere on the continent. Number 2, he might be in a different dimension, which, keep in mind, the Underworld is technically a different dimension. And then the third option is that he just might actually be dead. But then this is when Yuno actually chimes up and tells him that during the mission that he was on, he actually came across Adramelic and a bunch of high-ranking devils that he had working with him. And he realizes that Lucius most likely was the one actually in charge of the high-ranking devils, and if he's actually able to bring them to the human world, that means there must be some kind of like tear or portal that actually gives him access to going back and forth. Which I think the reason why Tabata put this part here is simply because they're all going to think that Asta might be in the underworld. And I think that at some point, maybe the Black Bulls, maybe Yuno, some other characters, I think we're going to see them go into the underworld and try to find Asta. which we have no idea whether or not Asta actually might be in the underworld, but what we do know is that if they do end up going down there, even if they don't end up finding Asta, they're going to end up finding something that gives them a slight edge in their fight against Lucius. It could be they end up finding out more information about the ritual he ends up planning on using against the humans in order to turn them into true humans, or maybe they might end up finding some new kind of power-ups for some of the characters, like Yami for example. I know everyone thinks that Yami might have a devil heart, which I haven't bought into that theory just yet because of the fact that it doesn't seem like anything really pointed to him actually having a devil heart. We saw that his mana was corrupted by the, devil mana that was in the underworld, but we didn't actually see him getting a devil heart or anything like that. So I haven't truly bought into that idea, but considering that Yami does have a connection to devil mana now, or underworld mana, we might see him, if he goes to the underworld, getting a major power boost or finding out a new way to use his dark magic because of it. And then there's also Gordon. We already know that he uses curse magic, and at one point his family did actually worship Megakula, assuming that she might actually still be alive down there because only 2/3 of her hearts were destroyed. And it might be that Lucius, because she wasn't originally a supreme devil, maybe Lucius might not have thought of her worthy enough to actually convert into a purified soul that he was going to use to create a true human with. She might still be alive down there, and if she is, Gordon might find her and either make a contract with her or learn some new ways to use curse magic from her to give him a major power boost. I know it's very unlikely, but I gotta kind of hope. I mean, Gordon, while he did kind of come in clutch in the last arc, I was hoping for a little bit more from him, and this might be the time for him to actually get his chance to shine. Anyway, after Yuno tells the captains exactly what he found out on his mission, Fugoyan tells him exactly how Lucius' soul magic works, where he can actually convert and purify the souls of supreme devils and then implant them into humans, giving them the ability to also use that magic, but also mind controlling them into thinking that he's right and everything. And this is when Kaiser, of all characters who I didn't think the body even remembered actually existed, kind of chimes up and says, well, against that kind of power, what can we ever hope to do to defeat him? Again, verbalizing what everyone, including Real, has been kind of thinking this entire time. And this is when Yuno actually steps up and says, I'll do it. And then we get this quick flashback of Asta and Yuno back when Yuno was promoted to a Grand Magic Knight, and we see Asta saying that he's slightly jealous of Yuno for being, again, another step ahead of him, but he quickly announces that he'll not only catch up to him, but surpass him very soon. And this is when we actually cut over to Lucius, and we end up getting a huge reveal. Well, first off, we see him kind of chilling Aizen style in like a throne room, and we see that there's actually 4 paladins all around him. Now, we know who 2 of the paladins are in this chapter. We know that he turned Sister Lily into one, and we end up getting revealed through the kind of design that we can see from the paladin in the background, that apparently Damnatio was also turned into a paladin, which is something we all should have saw coming, because I mean, the evidence was right there in our face the entire time. Like literally the last time we saw him, Lucius put 2 fingers on his forehead, almost exactly what he did to Lily when he turned her to a paladin. The second we saw that scene a few chapters ago, we should have immediately thought to ourselves, hey, he did the pretty much exact same thing to Damnatio the last time we saw him. Did he convert him into a paladin as well? I honestly can't believe I didn't see it coming. Anyway, we cut over here and we see Adramelic actually reporting to Lucius, and we end up finding out that during that mission where Yuno actually came in contact with him and the high-ranking devils that he had working with him, Yuno almost instantaneously killed off all the high-ranking devils that Adramelic had with him, showing that Yuno has gotten a major power boost over the time skip, which honestly is kind of to be expected from Yuno at this point. I mean, it seems like almost every time the character's off screen for more than like a chapter or 2, he comes back twice as strong as he was the last time we saw him. And I mean, considering at the end of the last arc, he was already at a level where I think he could possibly take down a high-ranking devil by himself, not a supreme devil, but a high-ranking devil alone. Yeah, I think that after a year and 3 months, Yuno should be at a level where he can take down multiple high-ranking devils alone without any problem whatsoever. And then this is when we find out that Lucius actually pulled a Doctor Strange from Infinity War, and that apparently he has the future sight ability that allows him to look into tens of thousands of possible futures. And he says that in only one of those possible futures did he see the good guys actually beating him. And the reason why they beat him is because of Yuno. Yuno is a special existence that could possibly get strong enough to actually take him down, and because of that he can't risk him being alive anymore. So he declares in this chapter, in fact Yuno does it at the exact same time as him, Lucius says he's going to kill Yuno, and Yuno declares he's going to be the one to take down Lucius and become the next Wizard King. Which is honestly surprising, because I really thought that the person who would end up taking on Lucius before Asta comes back would be Yami, considering he has such a strong connection to Julius, and given the fact that he's kind of Asta's mentor, I really thought he would be the one that would prime him up for Asta to come back and actually defeat him. But I guess it's going to be Yuno who actually does that instead. I mean, there's still the chance that the 2 of them could tag team against Lucius, which I honestly think that the only way they could actually stand a chance of defeating him in his true human form would be to tag team against him. And then we cut to the very end of the chapter and we see a heavily injured Asta washing up on a beach somewhere, and we see this person walking up to him in Japanese style clothing. and we see the sun is directly behind his head, kind of basically giving him a silhouette. Now, there's 3 possible places where Asta could be in this chapter. So obviously the first one that people thought of was he might be in Yami's home country, you know, the land of the rising sun, because obviously this person's wearing Japanese style clothing and we see the sun directly behind his head. So it's kind of given the indication that he might be there. Then there's also the Dwarven Kingdom, because one of Tabata's old editors did hint at the idea that they were planning on doing an arc where they're going to the Dwarf Kingdom and finding out more about Charmy's backstory with the dwarves. And then if you guys have been watching my videos, you already know that my personal guess is that Asta actually got sent to Purgatory because of the fact that Tabata decided to use Reikon as a word for Lucius' soul magic instead of Tamashi, and Reikon in Japanese Buddhism obviously has a connection to Purgatory. Now, when it comes to all 3 locations, there is actually merit for Tabata having Asta be sent there, and a way for him actually to improve in order to come back and actually defeat Lucius. For starters, if he goes to the land of Rising Sun, aka Yami's home country, he could end up being the person who actually taught Yami how to use a sword. If he ended up in the Dwarven Kingdom, they might be able to craft him a brand new sword, which might even greatly boost his anti-magic, or actually at least give him some brand new abilities he can use against Lucius. And then if he actually ended up in Purgatory, my main theory is that if Purgatory actually is a thing, that instead of killing Julius, Lucius might have sent Julius' soul down there, which if Asta's in Purgatory, this person who's fighting him on the beach might actually be Julius, whose soul is also in Purgatory as well. And there's no better person to teach Asta how to defeat Lucius than, well, Julius himself. But anyway guys, that's it for this video. Let me know in the comment section down below where you think Asta got sent to, and also what you think about the idea that Yuno is going to be the one to take on Lucius instead of Yami. Like I said, I'm not mad at the idea, I was just really banking on it being Yami instead because of the personal connection between him and Lucius. Anyway, that is it for the video. Thanks for watching. I really do hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, drop me a like, subscribe to the channel. I'd greatly appreciate that. I'm trying to reach my first major goal of hitting 1,000 subs, and I would really appreciate your help getting there. Anyway, that is it for me. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.